What if Walt Disney didn't die in 1966? What if he lived to be 75, 85 years old? What would have become of his legacy and the Walt Disney Company? We're going to talk about it right now. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Orange Grove 55. So in this video, we're going to talk about what if Walt Disney didn't pass away from lung cancer in 1966? What if he never got lung cancer? What if he lived on to be 75, 80, 85 years old? Now, Walt Disney, for those of you that are not aware, was born in 1901. So it's not entirely impossible for the man to live well into the 1970s and even into the 80s. You know, an average lifespan for a person is, 75, 80, 85 years old, right? So what would have happened if Walt Disney would have lived another, say, 20 years? It's very, very interesting. And I wanted to talk to you guys about that. And I want your comments below in regards to this, because this is a fascinating, fascinating subject. I want you guys to get those creative juices flowing. Really think about this and comment. But let's talk about film, though, and animation first, and then we'll dive into the parks. Now, in terms of film and animation, I actually think, and this is probably going to make a lot of people mad, but, this is my opinion, just my opinion. I actually think that the animation wouldn't have been as good had Walt stuck around for another 20 years. Now, before you guys get all mad at me, the reason why I say this is because Walt Disney, when he passed away in 1966, he was already kind of transitioning out of animation. Not the company, but him personally. He was starting to outsource animation to the people he trusted, right? And I think that trend would have continued because, Walt wanted to focus on theme parks, the next big thing, right? I think that trend would have continued. I do. And I think the animation would have it would have treaded water a little bit for the next 20 years of his life. I think we would have seen a lot of like Sword in the Stone kind of movies. And again, if you like that movie, that's great. But Snow White or Sleeping Beauty, it is not. Okay. Can we all admit that? So it's not the most, innovative, amazing thing ever. I think a lot of the features going forward would have been kind of that kind of film. Okay. It's okay. It's passable, right? However, when Walt passed in 1966, it created a void. And it created a void in the 70s and into the early 80s. And the studio really suffered when Walt Disney passed away, especially in animation. And it was because of that void, because of that suffering and that vacuum, that we ended up getting the Renaissance era in the late 80s, early 90s with Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin. It was that hunger from Disney animation, from hitting rock bottom and trying to claw their way back up, that created some of the best films in Disney's library. Again, if Walt survived and lived through that era, I just don't think that would have happened. I think it would have been a little safer with the animation. Just my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Okay. Just my opinion. Now, in terms of theme parks, I think the theme parks would have been vastly better than what we got after Walt. I think that the Walt Disney Company, by and large, has played it really, really safe when it comes to theme parks. Epcot, while a fantastic theme park today, is not the revolutionary thing that it was intended to be. Walt wanted it to be an experimental prototype community of tomorrow. And we didn't get that. You know what I'm saying? So I think we would have seen a fully realized Epcot the way Walt envisioned it, had he survived, had he lived into the 70s and 80s, which would have been really, really cool. I think that would have been interesting to kind of see that play out. I think Disneyland would have seen a lot of changes. Okay. I know a lot of fans are real married to like nostalgia, right? Walt Disney, while he loved nostalgia, he wasn't married to it. He was open to moving forward, progress. We saw him basically bulldoze Tomorrowland and give us a completely new Tomorrowland right before he passed away. I think we would have seen similar things happen with like Fantasyland. Look, Walt probably would have looked at Sleeping Beauty Castle at one point and said, hey, I didn't have a lot of money when I created Disneyland. Now I do. Let's build another castle. Let's redo Fantasyland. Let's redo Frontierland. I think there would have been a lot more changes from the 60s to the 80s had Walt survived at Disneyland than what we had seen. I think the company, again, played it very safe when he passed away, unfortunately. But yeah, theme parks, because Walt was so focused on that theme park stuff, right before he passed away, I think that would have been his focus. And when Walt Disney has a focus, it's to the moon. It's absolutely to the moon. So I think the theme parks would have been incredible. Walt Disney World would have been a completely different place than it is today. But this is just an interesting subject, really, in my opinion, to kind of ponder. Because really, like Walt Disney, when he passed away in 1966, he passed away at the height of his career. But if he had another 20 years left, that's 20 years that he could have possibly fumbled, made a mistake, had a huge failure. What if Epcot, wasn't the success that Walt was envisioning? What if he couldn't afford to constantly update the community of tomorrow and keep it relevant and keep it forward thinking? What if it would have became kind of like a Tomorrowland where it became dated and stale? What if he passed away in 1985, say, and when he passed away, the company wasn't, at its peak like it was at 1966? What would Walt Disney's legacy, what would it have been at that point then? How would we perceive Walt Disney now had that have happened, right? How would that whole legacy have been altered? It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Animation. If Walt would have lived another 20 years, we probably wouldn't have had a Howard Ashman, who's brilliant, who, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, he's another Walt Disney, but we wouldn't have had Howard Ashman's fingerprint on Disney animation then, right? We probably wouldn't have had that had Walt lived another 20 years or so. Fascinating stuff. But this video is just kind of to get you guys the creative juices flowing. What do you think would have happened if Walt Disney wouldn't have passed away in 1966? Let's say he lived another 20 years to like the mid 80s. What would his legacy have been? What would the Walt Disney Company have looked like with 20 more years of Walt? Good, bad? Look, I love Walt Disney. I've dedicated my entire channel. My life is this. I love Disney, right? But I'm also of the mind that I can look at things realistically and honestly say that I think some things would have been better had Walt survived longer. But I also think that some things might not have been as good. I think that some of this stuff, like the Renaissance animation, was kind of birthed from that hitting rock bottom. And sometimes when you hit rock bottom, you're hungrier, and I don't know if that would have been the case if Walt would have still been around. But hey, this is all my conjecture, obviously. But comment below. I would love to hear from you guys. What are your opinions on this? What if Walt would have survived another 20 years? What does it mean for theme parks? What does it mean for animation? Love to hear from you. Comment below. I do content on Disney all the time. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye.